Hello and welcome everyone. In this video, we are going to be launching a project for a student portfolio website. This will still be a static HTML, CSS project, a little bit of JavaScript in the starter code, but it is meant to give students the ability to show off their projects and a little about themselves as their CS career continues. So we are calling on a friend from Disney. We're going to be using Aladdin here in the walkthrough. And as you can see on the screen, this is the finished product. And we are a little different from a previous project that was simply a static image gallery. One page. This is multiple pages. So if you take a look at the very top of the screen, you should see a navigation. So we have a logo setting up on the left, and then on the right hand side we're able to navigate between 4 different HTML pages. And so we're adding on the multi-page aspect to this project. The first page will be our home page, then a page for projects, a page for blog and about me. On the home page, as you can see, we have a hero setup with an introduction on the right hand side, an image on the left, and a call to action or a view my projects button to select. If you scroll down, you should see the footer, and this footer will be on every page. It has a copyright information and a bottom navigation as well. Now this project is going to be developed with a mobile first approach as well, and it should or will be responsive. So let's take a look at that. As we shrink down the view screen, you could see now that the navigation at the top goes away and is hidden behind what we know as the 3-bar hamburger menu. And if we select that, click on it, we pull down or drop down the actual navigation. Now that click on is the only JavaScript in the project, and I will be providing that in the starter code for my students. So this still should be a basic HTML, CSS application. But notice again, this will allow us to move around and everything stacks on itself in a responsive manner. So multiple screens are able to be viewed. Let's take a look at the projects page. So we're going to head over to projects, or we could use the button, either one. And in the projects page, this also will be responsive. Again, we will have 3 in a row, and we will populate each project card with different cards. Right now I'm using the same one. And if we go to responsive mode, they will stack on each other and the nav will show up again under the hamburger. So we have that responsive consistency throughout. And in the project's card, we have the main title of the project, a little description that says click on the image below. So this image, if we select it, will take us to the website that was created previously in the image gallery project. Down below we'll have a project description, the course that the project was completed in, a source code PDF document, and also a link to your GitHub repository. So we will use each one of these cards going forward as part of the submission for your projects. So not only will you need to submit in GitHub, but you'll be submitting on your student portfolio. And that student portfolio is going to come after this walkthrough. So that will be project 4, our second freelance. So let's talk about that for a minute. If we go over to the blog page, this blog page is going to stay in a work in progress as is, including in the freelance. If we select the About Me page, this will stay the same in the walkthrough. However, in the freelance, I'm going to ask the students to have carte blanche over this and create their own About Me. And the only thing that should be consistent with, well, what should be consistent in the project is you have the top navigation bar, the bottom footer, but it is up to them to use their creativity to be consistent with the design that they've chosen for their own portfolio, but to populate the About Me page. So a little creativity to come down the road, but right now we are talking about the walkthrough. So as always, in a project launch, we want to go to our learning management system. If that's Google Classroom or Schoology, you should have a link. Click on that link in the assignment, and that should take us to a GitHub Classroom assignment. And we want to accept this assignment. So notice, make sure you have logged into your GitHub account first before you do this. Then on a separate tab, accept this assignment. And notice it's going to create, as you know now, a student portfolio hyphen and then your username, a copy of the starter code that you have for the project. So at this point, head on over to your GitHub account and recall that student portfolio with your username following the acceptance of the assignment. Pause the video and we'll come right back. Okay, welcome back. And at this point now I wanted you to go to your personal GitHub account and open up the portfolio that you just accepted. So again, you should see student portfolio and then hyphen and your username as we see at the top. Let's take a look at the repository that consists of your starter code. So we have the README file that starts us off. And again, this is Q1 Project 3. A reminder again, do not do any work as far as editing in GitHub. Edits all should be done and programming should all be done in the integrated development environment. That will be true for every project. We have some key concepts to work on in this project. A couple of things that are different, as I mentioned earlier, multi-page static website with navigation. We're going to be importing fonts and icons using a CDN, a content delivery network, using Font Awesome. And those additional project resources for Font Awesome are at the top, as well as a new one called CodePrint. We still have the main two sources, W3 Schools and Mozilla. Mainly we'll be focusing with W3 Schools. And let's see, we have this project specs. We have a general specifications, which is pretty much the same as the previous walkthrough, admin, time, and the project rubric for my students. Okay, let's head on over to one new Markdown file. If we click on the Git Linux commands.md, the Markdown, I probably should have done this earlier, but I've given you in the starter code the steps to push up your project from AWS Cloud9 to GitHub. So the first step is to change directory and make sure that you are working in the terminal within the project folder in question. That's step one. And we use the change directory command. Then git status, add, commit, and push are all here with a little more detail. So this will be at your fingertips because we want you pushing up your work after each workflow or classroom or what have you. Next one down is how to clone. We're going to use Git Clone and then the website of the repo in a few minutes. And then down below, a couple of Linux commands that are commonly used. cd ... to move up a directory, cd space into the new folder, ls and lsal for lists to see what's in the directory, touch creates a new file, and make directory creates a new directory. So these are at your fingertips. When needing, just remember that it is in your best interest to read the Markdown files in the user interface GitHub and not in Cloud9. We also have index.html, style.css, and scripts.js. So one thing about the scripts.js, as I mentioned, there is code in here. So we are not going to work in JavaScript just yet. That's coming very soon. However, this is ready for us so that we could work that toggle. All right, so at this point, we want to actually get this clone down. So select that green code button, come on down, and we're going to use the HTTPS option and put that in your clipboard. So we want the URL of the GitHub repo in the clipboard and come on over to your Cloud9. Okay. In our Cloud9, let's move up to terminal. So we have a little bit of workspace here, and I want to type clear. And anytime we clone or start a new project, you want to make sure that you are only at the environment folder. So if by chance you are in environment / and then maybe image gallery, the command you want to execute is change directory space ... and hit enter. That will drop you down to the view that we have here on the screen. So don't go any further. make sure you have the environment folder only with the cursor ready to go. If you only see Voc Labs, then you want to hit change, type in cd space and environment. Okay. All right. So at this point, we want to run the command git clone and then paste that URL from your starter repository. Hit enter, and it may ask you for username and password. If it does, make sure you're using the password. And make sure you're not using password, but the personal access token. And a little reminder: remember, when you paste that access token, it's not going to move, or the cursor's not going to move. Fear not, just hit enter, and it should work. However, that will always happen when we're pushing work up to GitHub, but when we're copying down, not necessarily. So at this point, what you should take a look at is on the left-hand folder structure side, pull down that arrow, and you should see all of the files that we just recently took a look at in the repository in GitHub. So there's the HTML file index, there's our style CSS file, and our script.js. We also have the 3 markdowns. Remember, read the markdowns in GitHub. They're a little difficult. You're reading the raw markdown code here, so it's much easier to use in the user interface. Okay, so let's clear out the screen here. And at this point, I believe, well, what we could do is let's change the directory now into the current directory. So cd for change directory, that's our Linux command. And now I only have one folder that begins with an S. And if I hit tab, it auto-fills the rest. And this is what I want. Student portfolio and your username, hit enter. Now notice we have environment is open, and then we have opened up the folder for the project. If we run the Linux command ls, you will see all of those files. So at this point, we are ready to go. Thank you for stopping by. We are set to begin the front page and the navigation of the project in the next video. We'll see you then, everyone.